Last talk for the day today. So we have Jonatas Soares dos Santos.
Perfect. Quite good.
So he's a technology and innovation leader in Bosch Latin America and a visiting faculty at FAE Business School. He manages a large portfolio of innovation projects at Bosch in the domains of digital business, agribusiness, mobility, and manufacturing. He holds a specialization in innovation and entrepreneurship from Berkeley and an MBA from University of Sao Paulo. And his talk today is titled The Role of Decentralized AI Agents and Their Use Cases in Mobility. So welcome.
Thank you very much for the kind words and the kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I would like to start my talk saying how I appreciate this opportunity. So thank you, Alessandro, for the invitation. Also for Peter Busch, who is the global responsible for decentralized technologies at Bosch. So it was really special. It's really special for me to be here today. I would like to start my talk by showing for you a demonstration about one of the projects that we are running right now with an external customer for Bosch. But prior to this, a quick introduction about myself. So as he mentioned, I'm playing a role as a technology innovation manager in Bosch in Brazil. But I have started to serve Bosch back then in 2008, so 17 years already. I'm responsible for the Web3 and GenAI program for Latin America, specifically for the GBS organization. So GBS stands for the Global Business Services. It's the area responsible for logistics, HR, controlling, and purchasing for indirect purchasing materials. And I have the mission to apply as much as possible all these emerging technologies in order to generate efficiency and to increase the productivity. I'm also responsible for a very special project, which is called the Digital Talent Academy. I will explain a little bit further in the next slide. And I'm passionate about how we can leverage these new emerging technologies in order to generate new innovative value propositions. And of course, I'm available to exchange data and information and insights if you want also to talk about this kind of topics later on. As I mentioned, I'm responsible for this program, which is the Digital Talent Academy. It's a 2-year structured program where we train young talents. Those guys, they are between 16 and 18 years old, so it means pre-university phase. And we offer for them a complete training program. During these 2 years, they go to Bosch and also to Senai, which is an external partner responsible for the formal certification, for this educational certification. And they learn how to code, they learn also how to English, they learn all the digital skills that they need to, after these 2 years, play roles like software developers, data scientists, AI developers, UX designers, cybersecurity analysts, and so on. We have already 390 participants. For those positions, we got almost 20,000 applicants, so it's a very competitive process. 120 already graduated, and 95% of them are still with us, so they decided to continue their careers at Bosch with a high diversity rate. So 60% of the participants are female. We have the demographics of our region in terms of black, white people, and of course also people with disabilities are also inside the program. And why I'm telling you this today? Because for 2 reasons. One reason is because the demonstration that I'm going to show to you in a few moments was developed by 4 of these talents. So they were working together with a senior expert, someone with a PhD in the area of computer science. And together they have developed the demonstrator that I'm going to showcase for you in this presentation. And also because some of them, they are willing to develop their careers at Bosch in the corporate research area. So from time to time, they ask to me, how can they develop themselves in order to pursue a master, a PhD, and in the future, they can also collaborate with you guys. So no further ado, let's move on to the decentralized topic. It's part of the Bosch strategy to make mobility smarter, safer, and more sustainable. And in order to fulfill this vision, we received one customer contact around 1.5 years ago when they requested from us to develop a proof of concept to use decentralized Web3 technologies together with AI to convince their stakeholders about the benefits and the value proposition of that. So now I will move on to this demonstrator. So we have here, maybe I need to make like this. Now it's working. Great. So what we have here. Imagine that you are driving to the capital of Bosch. You know where it is? In Germany? Stuttgart. So we are driving to Stuttgart. And then in this simulation, I start by, in this screen where we have my charging preferences. So I can select, for example, that I want to recharge only with green energy sources. And I can select if I prefer to save money or time. So based on these charging preferences, later on, the AI agents will will search for the best options available in terms of money or time. And I can also define, in this case, I will prefer to save money. And charging speed, I will select level 2, which is about 8 hours to fully charge. After that, I can click here, and then the AI agent will ask me about what I want to do.
Agent, how can I help?
Please plan my trip to Stuttgart.
Let's travel to Stuttgart. I will be in charge of the electric charging plan.
Okay, now I can show how many the value that I have in my wallet, the current level of battery, 35%, my autonomy, and the trip date.
Your electric charging based on your planned trip.
Now the AI agent is looking for the nearby stations along the route.
I am deciding where is best to charge considering your battery level and available charging stations.
And he's
I have a list of charging stations. I am now discovering the nearby services available.
and it learns from my experience and from my preference as well.
I am almost finished. I am now taking decisions to choose the best station based on your charging preferences.
Hope that the decisions are the best ones. Great. Then, if we take a look.
Your electric charging based on your this is the most appropriate station.
Oh.
Can I reserve it? Please confirm.
Now it found. Then here I can also select some services.
To charge considering your battery level and available charging stations.
And I can reserve. From this time on,
Charging stations. I am now discovering the nearby services available.
there are two processes in parallel. But now the changing contract status.
Finished. I am now taking decisions to choose the best station based on your charging preferences.
Great. So now you can see here this charging level is going down. When it achieves 25%, we can see that the car is now in the charging hub. Then here I can connect to the car. All this in the background, all this data is registered in the blockchain. And there are some agents connecting between the different databases, the different devices. Here I can confirm. And then in this hypothetical scenario, I have a robot that will plug in the charger into my car. Now we should wait, and the simulation was concluded. In this QR code, we can, if you scan with your smartphone, you can see the Etherscan. The Etherscan is the web browser for blockchain, and then there you can see all the transactions that happen. So I can see the details of my car, the details of the charging hub, and also everything that was registered in this transaction. Of course, in the future, you can imagine that it can enable a lot of new products and services. So let's continue the simulation, because after recharging, we are going to show to you how would work the bidirectional charging. So the bidirectional charging is it's when you have a reason, a motivation to put the energy back to the grid. So you take the energy from the car and you deliver it back to the grid. There's some circumstances that it can be helpful. For example, if you have a tornado and if you don't have energy in your home, you can also use the energy from your car to supply the energy for your home. But it would be much more interesting for you if you could have some benefits as a reward for that. So this is the idea here. I can select my car. We have developed for this demonstrator 2 different tokens. One token is related to the green energy and another for the normal energy. So if the energy it's in your battery, it's from a green energy source, I can select here. And then I can also specify, for example, 10%. I will deliver 10% of my battery level back to the grid. And I click on start, and the process will follow. Estimated time 40 minutes, so in this time we can have some questions. No, it's just a simulation. Finish simulation, and then I received it was very quick here, but I received the money back into my wallet. For this simulation, we have used a protocol that we call it CBMT, which stands for Commercial Banking Money Token. This is a protocol that in the future can generate the connection between the different devices, and the car, for example, can have a specific wallet to pay different suppliers. For example, the parking space, or the recharging station, or even though taxes, and so on and so forth. But of course, as the CBDCs are evolving, like the digital euro, the digital version of dollar, or yuan in China, Drex, the Brazilian real in Brazil, we can also connect this with these different currencies, and we don't need to use a cryptocurrency instead. All right. So now I would like to move on for the next part of the presentation. This demonstrator was created to validate that it's possible to use the blockchain and the AI agents to provide those value propositions for the customer. The customer asked with these requirements for us to develop for them. But this is just one example about endless possibilities that we can explore with the emerging digital economy. That's why it's important to highlight what are the main elements of this. So the first 2 important elements is, in one side we have the IoT devices, which is pretty clear for all of us. These devices, they generate data, and based on this data we can generate new products. And the other side we have what we call the DLT, the decentralized ledgers, or the distributed ledger technologies, which in a very general way I could describe as an infrastructure that enable a decentralized storage of information. It means that we have more transparency, uniqueness, immutability, and interoperability among these different systems. And in order to explain how does it work, I also have a short video from one of our partners, which is called Peak. I need to exit here, because if one picture it's worth of 1,000 words, one video it's worth of 1,000 pictures, right?
Peer-to-peer. society evolved, we brought in middlemen to make things easier. But the middlemen that once offered a helping hand have now gotten out of hand.
I know it's your core, but I didn't help you guys find each other.
Like this guy, taking half of the cut. Or this delivery girl doing all the work and making next to nothing in return.
Well, I did build the app.
It's everywhere.
I was just gonna think that. Thank you.
But with Web3, we no longer need a middleman.
Huh?
So it's time we cut him out. It's time to go back to a peer-to-peer system. It's time we hand back ownership to the people. It's time for community-owned apps and services across every domain and industry. By us, for us, on a community-owned network. It's time for a global infrastructure revolution, from energy to mobility.
Wow. And by the way, this was from PIC. PIC is one of the partners of the Fetch AI Foundation that I will explain to you in a second. But it's important to remember one technical aspect of Web3. Blockchain database, they don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to real-time data. They need a bridge. They need something that connects with blockchain database. Those are the data oracles. So data oracles is the connection between, for example, traffic lights, weather sensors, APIs, and different sources that we can then update the data in the blockchain. And there's a third element, which is pretty important, the agents, as I showed to you in our demonstrator. They can serve for micromobility reasons, for parking, for charging, for road tolls, and so on and so forth. In order to foster the development of Web3 and AI technologies, Bosch decided to partner up with Fetch.ai. Fetch.ai, it's a company based around Cambridge in UK, where they developed several technologies, and all that they do, they deliver this kind of knowledge in terms of open source technology. So I will go through these main tech stacks with you right in the sequence of the presentation, but it's important to highlight that if we want to create a community around this topic, we need to provide this information in an open source format. And this foundation is growing. So now we have Deutsche Telekom, we have PIC, the company that created this nice video that we just have seen. And based on this foundation, we can, for example, work towards AI and Web3 excellence. So when you join the foundation, we have some universities that are part of the foundation as well. You have access to this technical excellence development. The result of these developments are in an open source model, as I mentioned. The idea is that we can promote data sovereignty, so the users can handle and be the owners of their data in the end, and also to create some sustainable business. Enable the connection between AI, agents, and Web3. So what are the main components of this Fetch AI technology? Basically, when you start a project and you intend to use the Fetch AI components, we start by using the Delta V. The Delta V is like a user interface where you can interact with the whole ecosystem. Delta V is connected to the AI engine. The AI engine basically is a system that connects with the agents and also with the blockchain in a natural language processing way. So it means that you can chat with the agents or you can chat with your blockchain. Almanac is the place where we store all these agents. Of course, you can create and run your agents locally, but if you want, you can also upload them and register them in order to make use of all the ecosystem available. I would like to show to you some agents that are already available here. This is the Agentverse. The Agentverse is the front end where we can find all the agents that were already developed. For example, here we have an OpenAI agent, a website scrapper, Google Maps Place, translator, Cloud AI, stock price agent. And here we can also see how many interactions we have with this agent, 28,000 in this case. So it's in the order of relevance here. And there are a plenty of. So if you want something to play after this symposium with, I think here is a good starting point to play with AI agents. Everything that I'm talking to about this platform, it's very well described in the GitHub of Fetch, so you can also have access to this. Regarding the Agentverse, it's important to highlight two things. First, the agents created with Fetch AI technology, they have specific personalities. Today, we have two main types of personalities. One is called talkative. Talkative is more task-oriented, more focus-oriented. And we have also the next generation personality. Next generation has a broader perspective. So it depends on the kind of activity that you want to perform, that your agent will perform on your behalf. You should try and identify what is the best one. One is faster than other. One is can handle more complex activities than the other. For example, here we can have one agent which is an expert for looking for accommodations, and he can interact with different agents. For example, one agent which is an expert in 3-bed apartments, another for restaurants, parking around, weather forecast during the days that you are going to be there, and also EV charging. This is the magic behind here. We have some specialized agents for every part of the decision-making process. And the second fact that I would like to highlight is the importance of interoperability. It means that I can use different kinds of AIs, different payment systems, even different software wallets, and all those, when we talk about Web3, they must have this kind of interoperability skill. Blockchain and also data source as well. Here we have, for example, the decentralized cloud storage. So instead of hosting your data on the public and famous clouds, you can also use, let's say, the whole internet to spread your data, and those peer-to-peer contacts, they can also receive some reward by decentralizing cloud storage. And of course, as everything was based on Python and open source, easy to use, easy to integrate, it allows a lot of customizations in terms of AI connection, UI, the service, and the apps that you can integrate. So there is no lock-in, I would say. Here is just an example about how does it work. So if I want to play a one-day trip in San Francisco, I will start chatting with Delta V, this user interface, which understands the user request and communicate with the LLM, which is important to say that here we are agnostic in terms of which LLM we are using. It will communicate with the AI engines, and this is the system that will activate all these places, the different agents, the places to visit, the car rental, the restaurants, and any other. And then in the end, we have the almanac, which is this central storage of all the different agents. Yes?
So in this diagram, can you, I see the directionality here. So you go and you prompt the system, you interact with the system at the beginning, and then the functionalities are figured out and mapped to the agents, and then you have these different functions, place to visit, car rental, restaurants that go and plan, right?
Exactly.
So I'm wondering, is there, so can you intervene in that planning by interacting with the individual agents as they are coming up with the plan, or can they interact with you if something in the plan requires disambiguation? So how does this loop work?
Good question. Yes, you can interact via the chat with the Delta V platform. When these agents, they face some circumstance that they need some input from your side, this also will be available in the chat, and then you can, update this conversation. It's not something that you receive the final answer, and if you need to change something, we'll restart everything again. It's a interactive, it's an iteration between you and the agents working.
And those agents can interact one with each other, like the place to visit, car rental, restaurant scheduling?
Yes, they can. They can. And you can also develop a system where you have like an orchestrator agent that can have some different level of hierarchy between them, the different agents. Here. So here is just to explain, for example, imagine that you want to automatize or digitalize the supply chain logistics. You can have like one agent for demand forecasting, another for route optimization. And those agents, they can have different types or personalities. As I mentioned, the talkative and the next generation. So this is something that's, for me, it's the most interesting part, is that they can express themselves in different ways, and you can use or make the most out of it by personalizing, by customizing your system. It's not something closed that you need to use the way that they are. In the Getting Started page in our GitHub, you can also find like a step-by-step to build your first agent. I encourage you to try it out later on and see if what I'm talking about, these easy-to-use capabilities are real. And here's a picture of this agent verse. So, going into the direction of more use cases in the mobility field, the idea is that we can connect the different devices into this decentralized digital ID environment. I have here with me is Uwe Rom. Uwe is a manager responsible for technology projects here in North America. He's also from the same organization that I belong at, Bosch. And he is an ambassador of the digital identity topic. So if you are interested to understand more and to work on this topic, which is a very important topic, you can also talk to him. We have here, for example, in this basis of the decentralized digital ID, the opportunity to enable a seamless coordination of the participants in this network. So it means that in the first use case that I show it to you, we have the bidirectional charging with smart grid. Imagine, for example, one country that have some problems with grid stabilization. They can define that if you deliver energy back to the grid from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., the time that is more helpful for the system, for the stabilization of the grid, you can get a higher reward of that. So you can use like a crowdsourcing of energy back to the grid. Ride sharing, car to car, smart home industry. So there are a lot of connections that you can put. as I mentioned this example connected with this, the charging spot. If we go to a next level, if we think about tokenizing the whole system, we can have different types of participation. What I mean by tokenizing, you can create some stimulus, you can incentivize people to do some kind of activities, and instead giving their money, you can give them some tokens, and those tokens can give them special rights or special benefits, not necessarily in terms of monetary benefits. I will give you an example in one of a few slides. Next. In the last year, in the Bosch Connected World 2024, we hosted a hackathon for decentralized mobility agents. It was a really nice experience because we have, I would say, around 300 participants split in teams where they have worked with the different technologies, including Fetch AI stacks, and they had the chance to create agents as smart avatars to connect to the LLMs to perform this kind of activities that I showed to you in the demo, for example. And it was a great opportunity for them to get to know these tools, to interact with them, to gain some knowledge, and based on these insights, also develop further projects later on. Because we have several cross-sector opportunities for the automotive industry, in this roadmap, the idea is to show how many different use cases we can have, so we can integrate with smart home, with the battery life cycle, with end-of-life battery. So here, this roadmap is very focused on electrified vehicles, but you can imagine if we are talking about data, if we're talking about agentic AI behavior, there are endless opportunities to integrate with Fetch AI. As a last example here, when I mentioned about this tokenization, the economic tokenizing, we have an example about the AI-driven preventive maintenance. I would like to give a zoom just to explain for you. For example, here you can see that we have in this, in the different colors, for example, in this flow, we have when I paid some token, when I have some stable coin paid, when someone contributes, when someone contributes to the model, when they trade tokens for insights, when the insights are provided, or when the services are provided, here. When I have data being shared, or configurations or driver behavior data being shared. And in this example, we have several hypothetical partners. I hope you can see. For example, an agent on behalf of the user can negotiate with the vehicle agent to trade preferences regarding driver behavior, model, and so on and so forth. And then the vehicle agent can also provide some insights to the network. They can exchange the data that they have for tokens, and those tokens can also be used in the future to exchange for other kinds of benefits that can be monetary or no monetary fields. I like this example here in the bottom, where we have, for example, one OEM that pays tokens to these dealerships in order to get, in exchange, information from the dealership regarding the performance of their braking system. So it's a Bosch braking system in a Volkswagen car, and then we can use like this information cycle in order to improve the engineering or the product development engineering in the future. Imagine that we have this at scale. We have a society where I own my data. When I go to the dealer shop or to dealership store, I allow the dealership to share the data about my braking system with the OEM, the car maker, and the OEM car maker is also available to share this data because I allow it to share with the supplier of the braking system, and the engineering department can improve the system. So for my safety, for my, let's say, for my benefit in the future. And in the beginning of this process, I am rewarded by getting some tokens, for example, that I can use for discounts or for having some different access to different products or services. And in the end, what I would like to highlight is that this foundation is growing. So this is the last status from the last November. Actually, this week, a new company joined the foundation. So we have here Bosch, Deutsche Telekom, Peak that I showed it to you, Game Swift, which is a company for in the game industry. So they are using blockchain and AI in the game industry. D-Travel, it's like a booking company, the booking.com, but instead of a central marketplace, you can connect directly with the owners of the houses or the other touristic activities. C4E, it's a company which provides decentralized infrastructure for energy applications. FetchAI, and here SAR, which is the one university in Germany. All right, so a lot of topics. I came to the end of my presentation, and I would like to encourage you to later on, we can also share more content about FetchAI. We can also have a hackathon here in the near future where the students from CMU and all the other professionals can also make use of this technology, and we can create great things together and create a better future in terms of using our data in a smarter way and getting the ownership of this data for those who belong. Thank you very much. Questions, feedbacks, comments? I'm more than glad to interact with you guys.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, I just really interested on the large language model with the Web3, the combination I'm so interested in. So I noticed that some participant can sell their data to the large language model provider for some tokens.
Yeah.
Is it? So I'm curious, what if the user he don't wanna sell his data in the future? It's like he wanted the model to forget his data in the future. But like, what's going on if that happens?
Okay, good question. Yeah, in this specific example that I gave to you about the braking system information, it's a once-time transaction. So I allowed to share this information for this time. In a next time, if I don't want to share it, I can only decline the possibility, and this new information won't be shared again. So it's up to you the time that you share. So let's say in a hypothetical scenario, in a digital wallet, you have an overview about all the companies that have access to your data, and anytime you can cut the access of these companies to your data. The idea of Web3 is to have this kind of flexibility. It doesn't mean that if you sign it one time that this company have access, the company will have access forever. I don't know if I answered your question.
So there another one question.
Yeah.
That, so the all process, like the selling data or some dealer, like this process is implemented in the smart contract or?
Yeah. Oh. Normally when we interact with the blockchain, the usual way is to define a smart contract. But there's also other possibilities. For example, not necessarily there is a smart contract in place, because smart contract is people usually, there's a debate regarding how smart a smart contract is, because they cannot improvise. They cannot change in favor of both parts, right? But yeah, generally speaking, we have a smart contract operating based on the rules that were based on the agreement, the predefined agreement.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great talk, Jonatas. Well, one comment is yes, we've been talking. So CBI has been talking with the Fetch AI Foundation for a few months now, with the intent to organize a hackathon at CMU sometime in the fall semester or so. And of course, we were discussing, the involvement of different programs at CMU. Right now, we are in talks with the Master of Computational Data Science. We have some leads also for role of business management as part of teams of students that can work out solutions and come up with business cases. So that's also very relevant. So maybe a couple of clarification questions for me here.
Yeah.
So when you go and co-organize these hackathons, right? So you provide infrastructure for the various teams to develop what exactly? So new agents or new type of business cases that are linked to some Bosch scenarios of relevance, or how do you actually go? So what type of, say, first of all, tools you provide, and second, if you also are interested in providing some top-down guidelines to the students and to the teams. So how typically you go about it?
Great. So in this case, we are very flexible in terms of the challenge that we're going to approach during the hackathon. Normally, in the partnership, we ask for the organization if they have some use case that they would like to bring for the hackathon. Otherwise, we can also suggest some topics from the different divisions at Bosch. What we bring to the hackathon, we have our experts from Fetch in the UK. They can also support in the development process. They can join. They are willing to join this kind of events. The whole infrastructure. So we have all this open source that I mentioned on GitHub, all the guidance to make this happen. And also during the hackathon, we can also have some technical mentorship, technical guidance in order to guide the development team when they face some barriers that they need to overcome. So it's a very flexible part. Normally, it takes 2 days. Around 2 days, we have like this time for this kind of schedule, and most of the time we get surprised about when you put a lot of energy concentrated in 2 days of a hackathon. In the end, we have something that is surprisingly good. So it's also a great opportunity. Sometimes when we don't do a hackathon and we are doing like a normal development, we spend like some weeks until we have a proof of concept to show for a customer or for a stakeholder. So this kind of event is pretty good in this direction.
Okay. Maybe one other question of different sort in this case. So of course, the blockchain technology and ledger technology are kind of the guarantees there that when you have this negotiation across agents, the data are preserved, these interactions are secured and so on. Now, of course, these different agents perform tasks for users on behalf of users, and but they are only effective insofar they can actually capture the intentionality of the user across the whole process. So, I mean, you made a few examples, road trip or other type of planning tasks. And as I was mentioning in my first question earlier, in each of these tasks, there's always a belief revision of the user continuously, right? So we continuously revise our beliefs about something. We want to adjust some tasks maybe we decide that given some feedback that we get from initial results from a task, then we want to go to another direction. So how flexible are these agents that are developed through LLMs, I suppose, and their workflows? So is there a capability? So how far is the capability for these agents to go and revise continuously what the human user wants to achieve?
That's a good point. Actually, these things they are getting better and better over the time. I usually say that the version that we have now is the worst version that we will ever have, right? Which is good, because it means that in the near future, it's going to be better. However, from my experience, so far, we have a higher expectations for this kind of agent. So we expect that they will be like a concierge. They will anticipate problems that normally a person would do. They don't. So in this case, that's why I think it's important to keep in mind this kind of flexibility. It's necessary to interact, and it's really based on the prompt that I give to the agent. So the kind of constraints, the kind of additional information that I can provide to them. My belief is that in the future, these models, they can save this information, continuously storage this information in terms of incorporating my preference that I didn't mention to them, but they will incorporate in the decision making because they have learned it based on my last choices. You know, normally when people say, what is a priority for you? And then you say, oh, priority for me is topic A, B, and C. And then I ask, what was your agenda in the last week? And then you see that in the last week, A, B, C was not in the agenda. They were not in the agenda. So people say that those are priorities, but they didn't invest time on that. The agents, they will know about that. They will know what are our priorities, in fact, because as soon as I provide more kind of information, for example, my credit card bill, my access to my agenda, to my emails, and to all this stuff, when I say, please plan my one-day trip in San Francisco, I can also say for them, please incorporate healthy restaurants into the trip. But when the agent took a look in my credit cards bill, he will say that I don't usually go to health restaurants. So, you know, this kind of things. I think in the near future, the agents will be able to incorporate this kind of, let's say, particularities about the decision-making process. But so far, they are not. So they are very basic, and they need a lot of in advance information, prompt information.
Right. I mean, I think my question was leading to also some of the topics that we heard earlier this afternoon. For instance, RT Singh in the first talk was highlighting this need for a confidence level in the interaction between the human and the machine in the decision-making process, which seems to be potentially even a research topic for an hackathon, right? So how do you incorporate that confidence level such that these interactions happen with some awareness from a human perspective of what the agent is doing to analyze the preferences, for instance, to make sure that is not looking at your credit card transactions if you don't want that too. And of course, the confidence and the delegation of those task executions is very important, again, in the overall economy of things that you are devising, because otherwise you would delegate this right of acting on your behalf, but then because there will be failures, that can actually hurt the overall business model behind it, unless you start to bake in mechanisms that can give you back some confidence that you can measure across the system.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Thank you so much, guys.
Maybe one more question.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. To actually add to her question and sort of build upon his also. So, I mean, things like smart contracts, like they can ensure, okay, negotiation between two parties go as planned, right?
Yeah.
But there is higher level protection needed for, because the requirements from what an individual might desire might actually extend beyond what happens between two parties, right? I mean, so this is a good first stage, but are there mechanisms in this framework already to protect, to sort of, to convey what I would desire beyond the party that takes the data? To give an example, right? So let's say I sell my brake data to the workshop, and they give 5 tokens for that data, right? Now, what they do with that eventually is up to them, and I have no control over that.
Yeah.
Whereas we've seen that there is a desire to have control over that, right? And there are companies like Sentinel AI and all just sort of trying to enforce some of that. So I'd be curious, like, is there a plan to bring that? And today, smart contracts can't do that because they don't extend to to training or how that data is used later, right? Is there a plan to bring that into this framework or into this ecosystem at all? And what are the plans around that?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I don't know in too much details regarding that. What I know is that the idea is once you have transacted this data is already sold, so you cannot have access anymore about what they can do with this data. Based on this, I think we can connect with this topic that Alessandro mentioned about the confidence. So the organization that now is holding my data has a contract. It's not a smart contract, but maybe a conventional normal contract, which says that they cannot deliver this data for another use instead of the original one, the original intention. So from my point of view, in terms of technology, I don't know how we could solve this, but in terms of normal contracts, maybe it would be covered for this kind.
I mean, it would be interesting to, it's a little bit of a hyperbole, but like, let's say my brake data, I would want it, I'm okay if BMW uses it to train their model. I don't want it to be used to train the braking system on a tank, on a military tank, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So the ability to extend the contract to that degree of control would be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for all the questions.
Here again. And this is the end of the session for today. Now there's a small reception. Is it here or upstairs? Upstairs on the 6th floor. So please join us for that.